sugar. Oh, what to do?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Sorry, Mark. I've got to teach asset turnover before we break up for the Christmas, and I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I know you're the head of the department. I should be trying to say I know what I'm doing, but I don't.
It's asset turnover ratio. You've got that to teach.
Asset turnover, yeah.
No, why have you drawn a plane on Zach's board? He's going to go mental.
Look,
you've used a permanent marker as well.
Oh, sugar, right. I'm going home in a few days, back home for Christmas, and I got a little bit homesick, and I didn't want to think about asset turnover, so I decided to draw a picture of the airplane I'm going to be flying on. I'm flying from Leeds Bradford on Sunday.
Oh wow.
So
well, I better take you through this asset turnover. If you've got to teach.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's get rid of this airplane then.
Right, well, we can use it actually. Let's leave it there. Leave it there. I don't like it. No, because we're talking about asset turnover. Ryanair is a great example because it owns these sort of assets, doesn't it? It owns.
Also, the planes that they have is what they're part of their assets.
That's right. It's a non-current asset.
So if I just put non-current asset.
Yeah. And what the asset turnover ratio shows is how hard Ryanair are actually working those assets. So, if I give you an example, I've just managed to get some accounts from the company's house, and
is that something you go on regularly? Just
most mornings I have a quick look at company's house, and what I found was the turnover of Ryanair was 400 million. So that's not a bad turnover, is it?
So turnover is in revenue, also known as revenue.
Revenue, that's right. And then what they did, they worked out the value of their assets and
their net assets.
Their net assets. So that's the true value of their assets.
So that's their assets minus the liabilities.
Yeah, that's the true value. And their assets were 40 million. So if we say the net assets were 40 million there.
Yeah, so that's their net assets.
Then a simple calculation shows me that their asset turnover was 10 times. Okay. What that means is they turned over 10 times the value of their assets in turnover. Okay, so they basically, the value of the turnover compared to their assets was 10 times more. Now if we compare that to another company, we can see which company's working their assets harder.
Right, okay, so well, I use Ryanair to go home to Ireland, but when I go skiing I always use EasyJet.
Well, I happen to have some figures from EasyJet, you'd be surprised.
Really? Yeah. That's just really coincidental.
So coincidental. Their turnover was actually 300 million.
Yeah, because they're not
quite as big as Ryanair at the moment in terms of turnover, but their assets, they do have quite a fleet of planes, and their net assets came to 50 million. So can you work out from that the number of times they turned over the value of their...
So that's going to be 6 times.
6 times, yeah. So comparing these two businesses, what we can see is that Ryanair are working their assets much harder. They're generating 10 times the value of turnover with their assets, and there's a reason behind that. Have you noticed when you've flown with them before that when they land, the passengers very quickly off?
Yeah, one thing I noticed actually is that when I fly, and I fly quite regularly at Ryanair, is that they have us on and off very quickly, about 25 minutes turnaround time when they land the plane to when you get back in the air again.
That's it.
Now I thought they were just in a hurry to get somewhere. I think it's partially that, but it's also something to do with this, isn't it?
It is. It's to do with this because the whole idea is that the management want to work the assets hard, and if they can get that plane back up in the sky again, they're working the asset constantly every day.
What do we call it? There's a phrase you use. A phrase you always use with your students.
Sweating the assets.
Sweating the assets.
Yeah, they like to sweat the assets. So basically, that plane lands. The passengers are off. It's cleaned. Passengers straight on. 25 minutes they try and take off.
And I guess as well, if their capacity utilization is quite high at something like about 96-97%, they're basically they're squeezing. I always think it's like they're squeezing as much revenue out of their assets as possible.
Exactly.
So if they can be landing a plane that's full and that everyone's paid for a ticket,
yeah,
get everyone on and fill the plane again, and they do that over and over again each day. That's them sweating the assets.
Exactly.
I guess you could say they're using their assets more efficiently.
Exactly.
Which is why I think these are called financial efficiency ratios.
It is an efficiency ratio. What efficiency ratios show is how well the managers run the internal workings of the business. So remember the other ratios that you did last week? There's stock turnover, inventory turnover.
Payables days, receivables
Yeah.
days, so their relationships with suppliers as well.
So what they're showing is how effective the management are in the company. But one way to judge a good manager is, can they sweat their assets? And that's what this ratio shows.
So you think the higher the better, basically?
The higher the better, and Ryanair are excellent at sweating their assets.
I guess as well, they can always, in an exam setting, you could even look to see if they've given you an industry average for asset turnover and maybe compare it. And if it's higher than the industry average, that would indicate they've got some form of competitive advantage.
Yeah. I mean, every industry has a totally different figure.
Well, absolutely, that's it. So it's very hard to know the average. I know some textbooks talk about 3 being an average asset turnover, but I think you can take that with a pinch of salt. I think.
Yeah, definitely. You need to compare like with like. But
so you telling me my playing actually is helped?
Your playing has been the star of the show, because I think you could leave. Well, you're going to have to leave it because it's a permanent pen.
Yeah.
In fact, all this is permanent.
Well, it's
as
so good. Let's just make it permanent, and it'll just stay there forever. So actually, let's just put another wing in here.
I don't think Zach will mind if you leave that all year.
Well, anyway, he's teaching economics. He can put that all around the sides. But this, I think, is actually pretty awesome.
That's fantastic.
I'll put a little wheel there, and a wheel there.
Hey, well, I hope you have a good flight to Dublin. And,
I actually, you know what? I'm tempted to maybe have a chat to the flight attendants about this fact. Do you think they'll know anything about it? I mean,
I'm not sure, but I'm tempted to go with you. I just wonder if I can get a last-minute flight. Are you going on Sunday?
Go on Sunday, yeah. Going to be in Dublin for a couple of nights as well. Porterhouse Tavern.
Oh, you're tempting me now.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to go book it, Joe. So,
yeah, you go book the flight. And
okay.
can you also, when you're there, can you go on company's house and just find out a little bit more about some more figures about some rivals to Ryanair?
And I'll text them to you later.
Okay, nice one.
Thank you.